Hi, this is Odeean. Today I'm having a look at ToyWorld TW-02 Orion, which is ToyWorld's version of Optimus Prime. Putting him aside for a sec, the box is relatively plain, just like the other boxes ToyWorld have made so far. Does its job of keeping everything inside, but not really a display piece in itself. Immediately, I'm going to say I really like this figure. It looks fantastic. ToyWorld was showing pictures for quite a long time before we ever saw a prototype or a figure of line work and concept art, that kind of thing. And I know a lot of people, including myself, really were wondering whether they had the balls to go ahead with it and pull it off, because Optimus Prime is really kind of Hasbro's marquee character when it comes to the Transformers, and to rip that off takes quite a bit of daring, I think, and they've done a good job, if not better, than a lot of Prime figures that are out there on the market, but it is quite difficult to transform, but we'll get more into that a little bit later. To give some idea of how big this figure is, here's my ruler. So from the bottom of the toes to the top of the head is just under 20 centimeters, so that's around about 8 inches, so it's quite a tall figure. As a bit of a comparison, here is an old Classics Megatron, so he's taller than that. Here's Prime with his rival, the ToyWorld Hegemon figure, which is probably the best Classics-esque Megatron that we've got so far. But you can see he's a good deal taller than that. He's looking right down on him like that. And it's really kind of supposed to be, if not equal, then the other way around, not with Prime looking down on Megatron. I don't mind too much. I think that this Prime is done a little bit better than this Megatron, and I'm still holding out for a better version of Megatron. And that's not because I don't like the design of Megatron. I love Hegemon's look, and he's exactly the way I want him to look, but the reason I hold out for a better one is that the ratchet joints in this guy are stripping themselves over time, just the way that they're designed. So I think that he's going to get a little bit floppy, and in the long run he probably won't survive my collection. So that's the reason I'm holding out for a different one. It's not too influenced by that height difference. Currently on my shelf, Optimus Prime is wearing this powered commander armor, and it's a bit of a pain in the ass to take that off, so I'm just not going to do it. But you can see that Orion stands pretty even with Classics Prime, even when he's powered up like this, so he is a good deal taller than the Classics version. Now I'm actually happy to have this now, because I love this powered convoy, I think that's what it's called, DIA Commander or whatever. I love this armor, and I don't want to take Prime out of there, so now I've got a better version of a plain Optimus Prime to go on the shelf simultaneously, so I'm quite happy with how that's turned out. They look very, very nice together. This can be a different character for me now. For a final size figure comparison, here he is next to Hasbro's version of the MP10. So he's nowhere near that kind of scale, but I feel that MP10 is a little bit big in robot mode compared to a lot of my other figures anyway. Just hang on, who am I going to grab from over here? Come on, Streak, he's a good example. I much prefer the height of Orion next to my Masterpiece cars than I do of MP10. I'm not disputing whether this is accurate scale. I know he's meant to be bigger. In the cartoon he was significantly bigger, and he is a truck, but it feels a little bit better to have it this much closer in height. I'm not really satisfied with Orion as a Masterpiece toy. I'm not saying that I'm going to display it as a Masterpiece, but he does look good on the shelf next to the cars, that's for sure. Now, so far I've been displaying him with this I don't know what to call it. It looks a bit like a cape on the back, and on the box art it doesn't look this way, but on the instructions this is how it's shown. Now, I think on the box what they've done is double these up on themselves a little bit like that. So from the back it can look a little bit weird, not 100% happy with how that looks, but from the front it does look much flatter almost as if that's not there. And I mean, I have no great problem with it being on his back anyway. I think it looks kind of all right, but this way does look more kind of classics, with that straight, clean line across the shoulders, like normally we see like a G1 Optimus having. For a weapon, we get one accessory, which is this blaster, and does have a very Prime ion cannon vibe to it. It simply just pegs into the hand. It's not a super tight bond. You can see there's a little bit of wiggle there, and I think that's because the post isn't long enough. It does its job, but the wrist has a tendency to flop over like that, which is a little bit not so good. This one of my shoulders also has a bit of a, like if you put it up in the proper height, it doesn't really ratchet, so some loose parts to him, but it's not a deal breaker. Apart from that, I also would love to be able to peg this other cannon in. I think this is from Gear of War 2. It's been a while since I bought it, I can't remember, but unfortunately, although the peg size is about the same diameter, it's got these flat sections here which stop it from pegging in properly. And funnily enough, you can hold it really securely pointing sideways if you just get that flat section in the other orientation, but what use is that? Although he's quite blocky, he does have a good amount of posability, so you can get some pretty dynamic poses out of him. So you see that's like transformation joint, but it does give him a bit of an upwards bend at the waist too. Not bad. So exactly for posability, what he's got is his head is on a swivel here, goes the whole way around, and that whole section is on like a little bed that goes up and down for the transformation, so it gives you the ability to look up but not down. And at the moment it's pretty tight, so it doesn't fall back by itself, but I do have concerns about that in the long run. On the shoulder, I've got a ratcheted joint that goes the whole way around, but as I mentioned, this one, it's got a tendency to keep moving down, and if I hold it, it can make the ratchet, but occasionally it just moves into a spot where it won't ratchet anymore. We've got ratcheted in and out at the elbow, the shoulder, a swivel above the bicep, ratcheted elbow, hands swivel, like an old style Masterpiece closing fist, ratcheted waist. We've got that bend up, which is kind of posability but part of transformation. That just clicks in like that. The skirt sections can flop backwards and forwards to let his leg bend the whole way up, and that's ratcheted as well. There's a swivel above the knee and a ratchet at the knee. Now the knee itself is posable, but I don't think that's actually part of the transformation. It just lets you do what you like with it. This panel at the front moves out, and I think it's supposed to be like that. Just gives it a little bit of flair. The toe is on a ball and a swivel like that, so it kind of pivots down. You can really get it looking like he's got ankle tilts, although he doesn't truly have ankle tilts, but not that really matters. Once the toe's in that position, it looks good enough. And then finally at the back, the heel can go up and down as well, so that just gives you a little bit more option if he's going to lean forward to perch up like that. Now these sections at the back, they also move, but it's only really just to bring the red stripe to the front. It doesn't bend any more forward than that. One thing I like about it is that it's got enough bend in the hip and knee so that he can hit a sitting pose. So if you had a chair, you could sit him down and he could be at the flight deck of the Ark, for example, which would be really awesome. These chest sections here are permanently bent forward like that, and that's because this is supposed to emulate the look from IDW's latest comics. But if we pull them sideways like this and bend the middle flap down, we do get access to, if I can just pop it out, the Autobot matrix of leadership. And it's a pretty nice looking matrix given how small it is. It's really tiny. So where's that ruler gone? It's about 2 centimeters. And you can actually permanently see that matrix through the center window. So Prime is walking around sporting his huge status symbol, the matrix, for everyone to see. Now we're going to do the transformation. So bend the head backwards like that. Put it into the cavity. Grab the legs here. Just get the toes down out of the way. We're going to pop these middle sections so they're forward like this, and then rotate them in this direction. Now it's important to do them that direction because there's a little tab that catches if you go the other way. The next thing we want to do is get the side panels of the legs out of the way. So we're going to fold them back on themselves like that. And I'm not going to put them the whole way up at this stage. I'm just going to leave them sticking out so they're not in the way. This middle portion can rotate the whole way around and then tab back in. We want to do that on both sides. Now, the legs kind of clip together if they're both straight, that is. There's a little tab in the middle. Now, it doesn't really hold it in too securely, so I'm tabbing that in and it's coming undone. It doesn't really matter. Later on, it'll tab in a little bit better by itself. But what we want to do now is rotate the whole thing around and then just get that bum guard out of the way like this. On the back of the legs where the feet are, bend the heels up and then just put the toes down into the heel like that, and that's as far as they transform. On the cape section at the back, if we flip it over this way, you can see that there's a little extra bit, and we want to bend that extra bit up like this. Just being careful not to grab these little tabs with your finger because you can easily snap them off. Now, grab this and just move it up like that. That's not going to be the final position. What we have to do to get a final position is untab these panels that are forming his back. It can be a little bit scary the first time because they don't immediately want to come out. Now, as we rotate those together, just change the top so that they're still facing forward. Now, what I've done there as I move that is push in this little peg on both sides so it's not sticking in the way anymore, and then just tab the top together like that. Next, take a look at the back of his forearms and just bend down that little tab, that little panel rather, and fold the fist into the arm cavity and shut the panel back on itself, and do exactly the same thing on the other side. Grab the whole arm section like this, and at the shoulder, bend the shoulder forward so that this bit of kibble is on the top. Now we want to rotate that like this so that it can bend forward and open up into this position. Do the same thing on the other side. You'll notice that it has to be up. If it's not the whole way up, you won't be able to get clearance to turn it. And as I mentioned before, my arm here has a tendency to keep slipping down. So that's one thing to remember. Now, this next part is kind of a bunch of simultaneous stuff. The chest is actually tabbed in to the part that holds the shoulders together. So we want to release everything like this. And that's going to mean, we'll get to this in a moment, that's going to mean the whole chest moves forward, all these little bits bend forward, but also, more importantly, the swing bars that the shoulders are on are also free to move. Untab the lower half of the body, just above the groin, and bend it all the way back like this. Trying to keep it together if you can, but not too much of a problem if you can't. So you can see that's starting to form the back of the truck. Now, I mentioned before that this little bit popped off. It's probably going to pop off multiple times. It tends to do that. It can just snap back on, like so. Now, the next thing is, you can see the wheels are up here. We want to grab this wheel section and bend it down. Once we've done that, it's going to allow a clearance for this grill in the middle to pop forward like that. Grab these panels that we left free floating and fold it up in on itself like this, and then bend it into that little cavity just behind where the wheel has now been secreted. Now, you'll see that that doesn't make it the whole way in. It's stressing the joint a little bit. It's just the way that the toy is, and there's not much you can do about it. Now, the legs do move in and out sideways, and depending on how you've had it in robot mode, it's possible that you could push them this way a little bit, but mine are actually already wait a minute, the other way. I'm trying to say yeah, no, that's right. Mine are already as far as they'll go, so that little bit of lack of clearance here seems to be sort of built into the figure. You can see if I hold it in this position, they don't really want to make it the whole way. So in the end, when it tabs together, they'll be held in place, but for the time being, they just don't really sit flush. Now I'm going to grab the bicep area and swing it back like this, and also rotate at the elbow in two different directions like that. When you do that, this door will become flat, so you'll be able to push it in flat, whereas before it was kind of bent out, then you can flatten it down. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I know it's a little bit tricky because it's simultaneous things here, but it's really the only way to go. It's a bit of a complex toy, this. But unfortunately, it's only going to get more complex, because now the next part is, once we squeezed all this flat, we want to get this little peg here to fit in to this little gap. Not the peg hole, but the gap on the top. So while we're going to move this down simultaneously, we have to pull out this thing that's on a slide bar here, just so that it meshes like that. And if that wasn't enough, there's a little tab, there's this whole sequence of tabs rather, that you just got to get right. And it's, I mean, there's no easy way to do it. You have to fiddle around with this. And you can see I've made these ones tab in here, but that's still leaving the ones on this panel. So I'm going to have to do that on the other side to make it even. It's a little bit tricky. Why won't you go in? Something is not right here. What am I missing? I think the key is you've got to go up. So it's up and in, and then that will allow it to do it. So I've already been editing this pretty heavily, but you can see even the smallest steps, like doing this, just very, very tricky. I didn't edit that bit out because I just want to let you see that this is not your step 1, step 2, step 3 kind of transformer where you can just whack everything into its spot and that's how it is. This is a real beast of a transformation. But still, after all of that, we're left with this horrible explosion at the front. Okay, I'm going to give it my best. Ah, that's not in, damn it. Center panel has to go flat. These tabs on the front window have to go behind the grille, like that. And then finally, this tab here has to go behind the grille as well. It's easier said than done. That's it, that's that one. That's that one. And then all we're left with here is the bumper bar. I like to leave this till last because it seems pretty easy to just slot up underneath. Oh, come on, be easy. It doesn't want to be easy now. There. If you choose, you can get the blaster here and peg it in at the back, and one cool thing about that is it actually makes the transformation a little bit stronger because it helps hold one of the seams together. Now the toy rolls so nicely, and one of the things I like is each one of these wheels is an individual wheel. So whereas in some cheaper figures we might have just got one big chunk, we actually got all individual wheels here. The wheels at the front can steer, but they're not connected, so there's no bar going across, but still you can get that look going. Really fun features. This wind vane at the top is actually stronger than it looks once it's all transformed. So that's nice. It covers the head. You can see the head poking through a little bit there, but it's no big deal because it's not like a face or anything. It's just kind of the back of the neck. Probably the only jarring thing on the truck mode is the split in the window. It does look a little bit, you know, it's not 100%, but yeah, I can live with it. It looks good enough to me. Where the figure really comes into its own is when you combine it with other third-party toys you might have. So right now I've got here the G3 trailer on the back of Orion, and it's a perfect mate. It just joins on to that peg, and like, I guess when Fans Project made the trailer, they made it to fit with Classics Prime, and I guess when ToyWorld made Orion, they made the peg height at the back to fit with Classics Prime, and that gives us this beautiful degree of cross-compatibility. And they look like they were meant to go with each other. I mean, it looks better with Orion than it does with the actual Classics figure, so I'm super happy with that. If you want Orion to pull Masterpiece Prime's trailer, he can kind of pull it off, so you can see I'm doing it here, but it's a bit precarious, it's a bit loose, and the angle is all wrong. Masterpiece trailer is too big. To make this possible, all I did was turn the hitch sideways so it's got something to grab onto, but it's not the best solution. Unfortunately and surprisingly, the BTS trailer doesn't really look that good and doesn't attach that securely to the hitch on Orion. So the hole on the hitch is just too small. Like, it doesn't want to go over the square. It won't fit in. So although friction and gravity will make them connect, you can see it's not really that good, and it doesn't really look right. He's too boxy, and this is too futuristic. The two things don't go that well together at all. Roller from the G3 trailer can carry the blaster for Orion, but there's a little bit of a incongruity between the peg hole here and the rod. So I'll angle that up, and although it will go in, it's too loose. So you can do it. I mean, definitely possible, but for a bit of a tighter fit, I find that if I just open this all the way and stick the gun in upside down, that's kind of much more secure like that. And in a way, it would be better for Prime to have Roller carry the gun like that, because as he drives past, he could just reach down and grab it by the handle. So that's pretty cool. Bam bam tsh, bam bam tsh, dun 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 dun. Awesome. My final thoughts. I think this is a very great advancement from Hegemon and even from the throttle bots. And one of the reasons I think that is because a lot of the joints, like especially this elbow joint, have progressed from being the typical third-party joints where a piece of flexible plastic and a bump rub together into the spring-loaded ratchet joints, just like what Hasbro have given us. So that's going to mean that Orion's elbows are still working long after Hegemon has disintegrated, which is pretty good as far as I'm concerned. The design and look I'm very happy with. So every part of how this looks, even the seam at the front, I guess, I'm happy with. I'm happy with the face, the head. In person, the head looks a lot better than it does in pictures, and I can't put my finger on it. I just think that maybe in photos the head looks more rounded than what it is in reality. To me, it is a really good likeness of their take on Optimus Prime, and there's nothing wrong with it. It looks good in person. The posability and durability also feel pretty secure and satisfying. So the transformation which you saw is kind of crazy when it comes to getting all the tabs in place. That's a bit iffy. So it's done for good reason, and that's to hold it all rock solid, but it does a little bit take away from the fun of going backwards and forwards. But given how happy I am with this in both modes, I'm willing to accept that. I just hope that they don't start to go tab crazy in the future with all their releases, because I think that this one's just taken it a little bit too far. The value is also pretty good. So I bought this for $100 approximately from Captured Prey. Since then I've seen it for around 90 in a few other places. So $90 for a 8-inch figure that is rock solid in both modes and playable and durable and looks fantastic. That's good value for money, and especially when you put it in terms of third-party figures. I think that ToyWorld have been building a real library of awesome figures. Everything they've done that I've bought has been good, and I only think good things about them. So I hope they can keep it up. Now, the playability did suffer a little bit with all the tabs, but that's only in the transformation. The playability in truck mode, the playability in robot mode is still 100% there. It just takes longer to get to it. I'm just hoping that whenever we get to the kind of inevitable black repaints of this guy, that they don't go and put a huge price tag on it, because if they can sell me different colors of this mold at $90 again, I'm in for that. I think that would be fantastic. Maybe a slightly different head sculpt, so the character isn't exactly the same as Prime, but I would really dig to have a black and teal version of this guy. Maybe alternate weapon as well. That would be pretty cool. Maybe instead of the blaster, we could get a sword or something like that, or maybe just add on an extra weapon instead of an alternate weapon. This has been my video review for ToyWorld's TW-02 Orion. I'm Odeean. Thank you for watching.